Along with the classy and nostalgic Hollywood, Licorice Pizza movie also came the unconventional romance between two quite different people, Gary and Elena, and the ambiguous ending might potentially be just what the movie needed, both for a continuation of the story, but also for things to stop right then and there. By the looks of it, and the scarce information that is given to the public regarding a sequel of the Licorice Pizza movie, at first it seems like the ending was final, and that everything that needed to be done for the story of the movie, the characters, as well as the conclusion of the entire movie, looks to be done and dusted. Final. However, if you take a closer look at how things went throughout the movie, and where the story went at the end of the movie, you could possibly argue that there's still some unfinished business. Or so I think to be true, hence why I'm here today to tell you all about my take on the movie, the ending of the movie, what does it really mean, and what are the chances of us getting a Licorice Pizza 2 movie sometime in the future. And without further ado, let's dive right in.
No gas though in the goddamn car, Steve-O!
Before I move forward with this video, I should note that there will be spoilers up ahead regarding the movie for all of you who haven't watched it. And with that out of the way, let's continue. The movie concludes with an ambiguous final scene for Elena and Gary, to say the least, but before I get there, let's see how the movie went. Following the story of Gary Valentine, a 15-year-old child actor, an entrepreneur, and Elena Kane, a 25-year-old photographer's assistant, how the two meet, their story, the two falling in love, and the help the two give to each other while finding themselves in the San Fernando Valley in 1973. Right from the start, the movie sets the tone perfectly for the stories to be told, a story that depicts a moment in time of two people growing up with contrasting trials and tribulations of youth, and how they deal with all the twists and turns along the way. And while many believe it's a fantasy story told from Gary's perspective and how an older woman supposedly likes him, the film can easily be interpreted as a movie equally motivated by the conflicts of Elena's character. Now yes, the story starts off with Gary and him wooing an older woman, but as the entire thing unravels, we can see that Elena's side is more and more involved, with the age gap highly criticized by many viewers, despite it being one of the crucial details regarding the story of internal conflicts and motivations of the two protagonists of the love story at hand, which is just as weird and exciting as all of their adventures.
What business should I be in?
I don't know. What do you like?
I don't know.
You're an actress. You should be an actress.
The end of the movie shows Gary and Elena and them realizing that they don't want to go on alone, accepting that the two have profound impacts on the life of the other. During the final minutes of the movie, Elena hits that like button just like you should if you haven't done so already. But no. In reality, Elena runs from a dinner to Gary's pinball palace, while Gary runs to find her after patiently waiting for her on the opening night. The whole cat and mouse chase during the movie, which concludes with an ending that sees the two sharing a kiss before running off into the dark of the San Fernando Valley together, and a silent whisper from Elena's side that says, and I quote, "I love you, Gary," to close out the movie. In an odd way, Elena does love Gary, but not in a typical way, but rather who Gary is, a charming and ambitious individual who has his whole life figured out at 15 years old, while she idles in life in her mid-20s. Plus, he makes her feel good and is always there for her. The two drive each other crazy and use each other to feel less insecure while also enjoying the feeling of being needed by someone.
I met the girl I'm gonna marry one day, Greg.
Oh yeah?
And you're gonna be my best man.
Gary, on one hand, likes having the attention of an older woman, which makes him feel more mature, while Elena, on the other hand, likes the attention of a young guy who's successful but still makes her superior because she is simply older than him. Simply put the two of them each other to be better people than they ever could if the two were not together, with the romance depicted in the movie being more about aching for the unsure youthful whirlwind time in people's lives and less of the unconventional love story many of the other movies in the genre are filled with. But after everything is said and done, what exactly does the ending of the movie really mean? And what about Gary and Elena? Are they a couple now? The two loved each other at different times, with one always running after the other, and the two realize that they want to be together right at the end, while also loving the dynamic of driving each other crazy and the two finally being on the same wavelength. The meaning of the end is the massive changes, development, uncertainty, and instability of youth, and just how rare it is for one individual to be in the same as another individual at the right time. And even though this special moment might not last as long, it's a time when the two are able to enjoy one another and finally be on the same page. There's still the uncertainty from the very beginning of the movie, with the two not still wandering throughout their youth, but at least they have each other right now. right there.
I'm gonna choke your brother. I kept it inside, but what I wanted to say was, no, I'm gonna choke you.
As for their relationship, it doesn't go much further than just a shared kiss, largely because of the age gap between the two and the fact that Gary is still in high school. They're emotionally attached to one another and they used each other to feel good about themselves. But the two actually getting together as boyfriend and girlfriend is far too much of a fantasy for characters of their type, especially in the setting Paul Thomas Anderson brought to the table. Thus, if a sequel is supposedly on the line, you should expect for Alana and Gary to smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. But no, in all seriousness, you should expect for them to maintain the same romantic dynamic until they find someone else in a more appropriate setting. A narrative that should follow a potential sequel, with the story of the sequel eventually telling a story of how the two would cope with things and the place where they would find themselves when one of the two has moved on and the other is still stuck in the same place as before. One of the newer movies released around a year ago, Licorice Pizza. There have not been a lot of rumors or speculations as of now. However, there's still one big question: how likely is a sequel to happen in the near future? Being the classic Hollywood-style nostalgic look at youth, the movie looks like it's meant to be a one-off, meaning that the movie's end might not look final to the naked eye, but in fact, it surely is. An in-transitional moment where Alana's I love you Gary moment being the last piece of the puzzle, and no need for a continuation of the story. However, seeing the entire movie from a different perspective, it's open-ended with no real clarity about the relationship status between the two, so there's no simple answer to give outside of saying that Licorice Pizza does not necessarily need a sequel, with a continuation of the story not really needed to say the least.
Where are your parents?
My mom works for me.
Oh, of course she does.
Yes, she does,
That
in my
makes
public
sense.
relations company.
In your public relations company?
The movie's ideals at the end also go along with Paul Thomas Anderson's pattern of never making a sequel, with his movies being typical in the sense of being set in specific time frames for the characters involved, and the story behind those characters more often than not fleshed out in one movie, hence the chance for a sequel is highly unlikely, but never zero. Whatever the case may be, I think we can all be certain of one thing: even if a sequel does happen, it would negate the original's concept of a nostalgic lens for a very specific moment. Thus, maybe it's better if the movie is left as a movie on its own, one that has an ambiguous ending. See you in the next video.